almost there. Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude, and part number 8 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale German 3.5 ton truck and 3.7 centimeter anti-aircraft gun. In the last installment, I got this put together. I did pin wash on it and set it aside. That's ready to go. I can't remember which episode it was, but I worked on this little bloke here some, got him painted up, and he's ready to be sitting in the bed of the truck. I need to paint that guy. But the part I'm ready to do now, as I mentioned at the end of the last installment, is I'm ready to spray a clear coat on this truck so I can start with pin washes and some weathering. For the clear coat, I'm going to use SMS Premium Clear Gloss Acrylic Lacquer. Oh wait, I already did. Yeah, I already sprayed it. So I got it sprayed. I've only used it a couple of times, and the jury's still out. I'm not sure I'm ready to replace Tamiya's X22. But anyway, it's sprayed. So I was going to do a pin wash, and I started doing that on the lower extremities on this side and on the wheels. But, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do one of them there, what you call sludge washes. What's a sludge wash, you say? Well, it's when you just basically get the wash and just splatter it on the whole shooting match. And that's what I'm going to do. So let's see. And for that, I'm going to use Ammo by MIG enamel wash. And the reason I'm going to use that is it works really good, flows good. I like the colors, and the nice thing is it wipes off easily. So that can be beneficial if you make a mistake, or it can be beneficial if you do just like slather this stuff, lather. It ain't soap all over the place. All you have to do is just wipe off the excess with a rag or a cotton bud or something like that. So what I'm going to do, just to kind of give an example of what it's going to look like, I'm going to do this one panel right here. Man, it's time for a new brush. These brushes are getting worn out. I'm going to do this one panel here and show you what I'm doing. So first, I'm going to do that. And then, now it's going to change because it's going to act like a filter as well because of the texture of the paint. But that's okay because I want to break up the monotony of this dunkelglab. So let's set that there like that and let it sit, and then we'll come back and I'll wipe it off and show you what it's going to look like. All right, so there it is. So then I'll just take a Q-tip. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. I should be doing it vertically to kind of create a streaking effect, that realistic rain streak effect. See, there you go. So that's what you get. It darkened the paint just a little bit, but it made it more uneven. Added a little bit of a brownish cast to it. But also keep in mind, this is just the first stage of the weathering process. So there's going to be other stuff going on. And if I don't break off this license plate holder, I will be completely and utterly amazed. So stay tuned for that. So starting a little bit of streaking. I'm using streaking grime for DAK just because, it's a color that'll work with this dunkelglab. I wanted it more of a grayish than brownish. Of course, I may add some brownish to it, but all I'm doing is just adding it along the sides like this, and then using a damp brush, damp with mineral spirits, just pulling it down. Again, keeping in mind this is just one step of many to get this truck weathered. This is just adding some discoloration onto the bigger panels. Okay, kind of splotched up the top a little bit too, but I think I'm going to rub that off once it dries, partly because, you know, I don't want it to be quite so splotchy looking, but also because there's some like little bits of like fuzz and stuff in there. I don't know if it came from my brush or what, but anyway, I'm going to continue on around it doing that. All right, well, I got all that done on the truck, and it has dried sufficiently, and I put a flat coat on it so I can start the next stage of weathering. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to start with this here, and start doing some oil work on it. Now, I'm not going to get real complicated on this thing because I'm really getting to the point I want to wrap this up, but I'm just going to use a few oils, kind of dirty it up, make it a little bit splotchy, and then we can go on from there. Quick note on the truck. So I was putting the tires on, as you can see here. I finally got the tires on. And just for the record, these vinyl tires, I was able to use the MRP acrylic lacquers and didn't affect the tire at all. And it's stuck quite nicely. Nothing's flaked off yet. So if you ever have to work with those vinyl tires, looks like you're pretty safe using the acrylic lacquer paint. And I'm sure other brands would work as well, like SMS or whatever. But that's just a side note. But I broke that wheel off, and I was quite discouraged. However, in the time it took me to gripe to a friend about that, it took less time to fix it than it did to gripe about it. So it's quite easy. I just drilled a hole, stuck a bit of wire in it, and using some gel super glue, slid that sucker back on, made sure it was lined up properly, and boom, it was fixed. So stoked. All right, so yeah, I'm going to start with Abteilung 502 Abteilung Dark Mud. Start dirtying up the lower portions and some of the nooks and crannies and stuff like that. Basically, I'm going to use out of my oil paint tool drawer. I'll use this little small brush here to do some dots, and then I will scrub it up and work it in with these types of brushes here. All right, so I'm gonna get cracking on that. I'm not gonna do it on camera because it'll take too much time. Maybe I'll do a little bit on what do you call that, time lapse, and maybe I'll put that in. But anyway, here we go. Okay, so the trailer is, for all intents and purposes, done. Got a little bit of this lighter colored wash to rub off still, but that's done. The truck, I still need to work on the wheels a little bit, but I got the bottom all dirtied up. I'm going just for like a grubby look. I'm not going for a real dusty kind of thing, like road buildup, you know, from the, you know, like the dirt that build up on a vehicle. I'll do some fuel staining here. Before I get to that, I want to start gluing this stuff together. So maybe I'll demo this via time lapse on how I kind of put these together. Okay, so if you watch that time lapse and you paid attention, you'll notice a few things went on with these fuel drums. So let me explain what's going on here. So I cut them off. Thusly. And we get a top and a bottom. Like this. So as you can see, I cleaned up these edges using my Tamiya cutter here, cutting it as close as possible. Same thing with the lids. Cut them just slightly away from the edge so I can knock the residual sprue gate down with a sander. In this case, what did I use? I used the 600. That was enough. Just feel the edge. Knock it down. Like that. And then glue the thing together. So I put these together, and I don't know if you can see. Let's see if I can zoom in on it so you can see what's actually going on here. Let's get a lighter background. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's a step right there and there. So, and you can really see it on the reinforcement ribbing here. So let's flip it around and see if it works better like that. Yeah, that one's a little bit better, but still not quite. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I just cut these locating pins off. Don't need them. I mean, yeah, they can help, but ultimately they're more of a hindrance in this case than a help, because I can't twist it to get it lined up. Now I just cut the one, so let's see how that works. See, still, this one down here is keeping it from lining up properly. So I'm just going to cut these off and let this be a lesson that not always do you need to use these locating pins when they're there. Yeah, they can be helpful, but they can also, as I say, be a hindrance. So then it's just a matter of lining this up. And one could even just do one side at a time to really minimize the seam cleanup. Okay, so spin it around this way, see how this side looks. Okay, so that's a lot better. So then I will use good old Tamiya extra thin. I apply it from the inside first to get it to stick. Like that. And I'll put a little bit on the outside. Like that. This other side looks pretty good. I'm gonna let this one sit for a few minutes though. Let this side sit and then I'll do the other side. All right, and with that side dry, now I can glue the other side and provide any tweaks necessary to get it to line up as much as possible. So there we go. Put a little bit like there, there, and there. All right, now I could clamp it, but I don't think it's really necessary. Okay, so that's good. So now we can put the lid in the bottom. Let's start with the bottom. Now apparently this thing here, it's kind of extended on the bottom. That faces down. So I'm going to glue the bottom first. And we've got a pin and a slot. Now, I'm going to be kind of generous with the cement here. And then what I'm going to have to do is make sure it's centered as, oh, like that, centered as much as possible. Because it's not a real tight, secure fit. Make sure it's pressed down. One side's popping up for some reason. So I'm going to hold that there for a minute. Let the glue stick. So I went ahead and clamped the top. It installs the same way. So that'll be ready to go in a minute. So what do we do with the seams? As you can see, I've already started taking care of that. And the way I do that is if the seam is too big, I give it some scrape first with the old X-Acto. And then before I get to those others, we need to work on this rim here. Now it's like this on both ends, but one end is going to be underneath, so it's not as crucial. All right, then, as I say, do some scraping, and then using two different grits, starting with the coarser grit first, obviously. We use one of these. This is called a it's made by Flexifile, and it is an aluminum frame with an abrasive band, and all you do, just sand it like that. And the nice thing is because it's all flexible, it won't create a flat spot. That's the idea behind it. So if you have surrounding detail, you just got to be careful not to abrade that too much, and you know, just do your thing. And then once you prime or paint or whatever, you can see if you got it good enough. It's another benefit of priming stuff. Not only does paint adhere to it well, but it shows any potential seams that still need to be addressed. And doing this gets rid of any of the sanding fuzz. That's a technical term, sorry. Looks pretty good. Now, if you were doing these on something that these were going to be a bit more visible, I would say it's probably best to really work on these this raised detail here, but fortunately for me, call me a cheater, call me a slacker, whatever, this stuff is not going to be visible. My main concern is the tops. So I don't have to worry too much about any residual crookedness in these raised details. This is what I need to worry about the most. So there, that's how we do the cans. So I'm going to continue putting all this stuff together, then we can come back and take a look at what I'm going to do with them next. Okay, I've got all of the spouts and handles on the water cans, the jerry cans, same. So those are ready to be painted. So as I'm sitting here, I am working on the fuel drums, and it got me thinking, and I think I've come up with a phrase that I can coin, because I've never heard it before. It's not a new idea, I don't think, but it's something I just thought of. So what brought me to this revelation? Well, this. I'm working on these fuel drums, and you know, it's got these seams on the side, and I'd mentioned earlier in the prior segment that, you know, this part of the seam, it's fairly easy to fix. Okay, I can scrape them and then sand them, and then there's this part. So you got all these finer details that are a little bit harder to eliminate the seam lines. So I said, in this case, I'm not going to worry about that so much, because the way these are going to be in this truck, I can stack them in there, and if you see anything at all, it's going to be this side where there's no seam. So really, there's not a need. Now, doing it, no problem. I mean, if that's your thing, go for it. But there's not any reason necessarily that I am needing to clean that up. Okay? I'll get rid of the big stuff, and I'll be fine with that. I'll leave the little stuff. And that got me to thinking about some of the things I've talked about before. For example, cockpits. You know, cockpits come with a lot of detail. There's a lot of aftermarket detail one can buy and really trick out a cockpit. Again, if that's your thing, that's great. I've done it myself. I've bought aftermarket parts, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying I won't do it in the future, because I'm sure I will. But is it necessary? No. I'll give you an example. You got your Grumman F4F fighter, very popular in the Pacific. And the way the cockpit is on those things, it is tiny, tiny opening. Huge amount of room once you get past the sills, or whatever you call it, the edge of the cockpit, where the canopy slides. So because of the way that thing's shaped, you can't see inside of it once it's together. I mean, you barely can see in there if it's left open. If you got a closed canopy, forget it. If you have a pilot, you're not going to see anything. You are just not going to see inside of there. So why am I saying all this? Well, because you have to choose. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. But for me, I choose where I'm going to spend the effort. Okay? So my phrase of the day, and I'm going to coin this. We'll see how it sticks. You know, I may not ever say it again, but I think I'm going to coin this phrase. And that's expenditure of effort. Okay? And here's what I mean by expenditure of effort. You know, I have a finite amount of time to work on a model kit. I have a finite amount of time left in my life. We all do. Some are closer to the bottom of the hill than others. But, so time starts to become a little bit more important for some people. Or if you have a lot of kits and you just really want to do them all. Or, you know, just you're working on a project, you don't necessarily want to give it up, but there's another project on the horizon that you really want to tackle. All of it. There's always some kind of time constraint that can be appear, that can pop up in your brain. So here's the deal. Expenditure of effort. So if you're not going to see the inside of that cockpit, maybe just paint it the base color and leave it at that. If you're not going to see the side of these fuel drums, get rid of the big seams and leave the little ones, because they're not going to be seen. In other words, applying your effort to things that are more likely to be noticed. Okay, exterior details. You know, you may not detail the interior of the cockpit. You may just leave it bone basic. Maybe put the decal on the instrument panel, but just leave it. But on the outside, really do a number on the missing rivets, or the adding hydraulic line detail in the gear bay, or something that somebody's going to see, or that, you know, you just find more interesting. Okay, does that make sense? So expenditure of effort. This is a case. I'm not going to spend a lot of time cleaning these seams up because nobody's going to see them. I'm going to spend my effort elsewhere. All right, so that's it. That's my thought for right now. So that stuff is kind of ready to put on the paint block. So I think what I will do is I'm going to put these on my painting devices, and I will shoot some primer on these things, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit more about what I actually plan to do with those. All right, so back in a flash. Okay, I got them primed in black, and then I sprayed everything with find it, MRP steel. And yes, I spilled some at one time and it's driving me crazy, but sprayed it with MRP steel. I didn't want to use anything too shiny for the underneath color for chipping, because I didn't want it to be too glaring. So the next thing I need to do is I need to paint the fuel cans and these metal boxes here. I don't know if they're supposed to be ammo or what. I don't think so, but anyway, I've got to paint those German gray, which is, in this case, I'm going to use Tamiya XF63 thinned with X20A acrylic thinner. And then the drums are to be painted with field gray, which has got a little bit of a greenish cast to it, XF65. And I will be thinning that the same way, X20A, so it will chip. So, as you can see, we've got this far. So I'm going to spray those first with some hairspray. Yes, I'm using hairspray to use for chipping fluid. I've had this can for a long time. So if you do chipping, you buy one of these, it's going to last a while. So anyway, I'm going to spray all this stuff, let that dry, and then I can spray the paint, and then we can get on with some chipping. Okay, so here is everything painted up. Now, what I need to do first, before I get too far with chipping and stuff, is I need to paint some white crosses, and I'm going to do that by hand with AK third generation white, and just paint crosses on there because these are water cans. And then I can start thinking about chipping these babies up. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then we will come back. Okay, now you can see a little bit about what's going on. So I've got these somewhat chipped up. I think I need to do a little bit more. Oh no, that's the other side. So I got these chipped up. A combination of using a wet, stiff brush. So you can see it's just scraping it off, and then a toothpick. Make additional chips that are a little more less fadey looking and more chipped looking, like it's been knocked around. Same with the drums, focusing a lot on these raised edges. So I'm gonna let that stuff sit. I gotta let that handle dry there so I can put it the pump into this fuel drum. Then I can start working on the bed. All right, let's take a look at where I am now. So I've got all of this stuff painted, chipped, and a little bit of fuel staining and other drippy, stainy kind of things. I've got some staining going on in the bed here. I'll probably do a little bit more, but that'll come later once I get everything installed. But the next thing I need to do, I've got a couple of small parts left to install. One is the windshield wipers, and one is the rear view mirror. Rear view mirror is no big deal. I just need to hit it with one more coat of paint and then simulate, you know, kind of a reflective type material for the mirror. But one thing I want to do is, as you can see, these, I pulled the tape off of these windshields, and they are just sparkling clean. Rest of the vehicle's dirty. That dog ain't gonna hunt. So I want to dirty them up. However, I want to dirty them up in such a way that the windshields are only partly clean. So here is what I have done. This is already complete, so I'll just show you. As you can see here, I have this kind of circle business. What's that, you say? Well, it kind of assists with this. This is a circle cutter. So what I did is I determined what kind of radius I needed to simulate the sweeping action of the windshield wiper on the windscreen. And that comes out to 26 millimeters. Okay, so what I basically did is I took from the pivot point here to the tip of the blade. That's 13, double it, 26. That will give me the appropriate radius that I need. Then I had to account for the length of the wiper blade itself, which is 6 millimeters. So 6 millimeters, yeah, 6 millimeters. So the measurement I needed was 12 millimeters. And I basically made this concentric circle. And the way you do that with one of these is you set each one of these long hash marks is 2 millimeters. Okay, so I set the first one and set this down where I wanted to cut, and then I set this as an anchor point. I turn this, the little blade here cuts the circle. So once I do that, I hold this angle in place, remove this, making sure this does not move, set my next measurement, which was the 12 millimeters, hold this firmly in place, butt this up in the corner there, and then make my next circle, which is the smaller one. That will give me a perfectly concentric circle, and it will simulate the sweep and this, well, let me just peel it off and show you. This part here is the width of the length of the wiper blade itself. So then all I have to do is make another one just like it. And then kind of determine by eyeball, cut here and a cut here to show the total sweep of the windshield wiper. Then I just stick those in place, making sure I have them lined up properly for said sweep. And once those are in place, then I can hit it lightly with some dust colored, buff colored paint, just airbrush it on there, just very faintly, just enough to give it like a dirty window look. I can add more stuff to it if I want, but just to kind of just ever so slightly fog it. And then when I pull the tape off, you'll have nice clean marks where the wiper blades were. So it's a nice effect. I've used it before in the past, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but it works, and it works nicely. It's effective, gives the appearance of a used vehicle windshield. Then once I get all that done, I can glue the wiper blades in place, and we're off to the races. All right, so I'm going to do the other one, get that caught up, put on there, hit it with a mist of some kind of dusty color, and come back. Okay, so here it sits. Put a little bit of dustiness on it. As you can see, the windows turned out the way I wanted, actually. The bed's pretty much done, and I've got a few decals to put in, the ID plates and the blackout lights, which are a decal in this particular case, which is, never seen that before, but hey, whatever works. So I need to do that, and this thing will be pretty much done. I still got to do the other figure, but I already showed you on one how that works. So I think I'm going to end this video right here. So that's the end of part 8 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale German 3.5 ton truck with 3.7 centimeter flak 37 anti-aircraft gun. So next time when I come back, I will do the final reveal, give my thoughts on the kit, and a brief slideshow. So that is it for now. Thanks for watching Plastic Models by Regular Dude. And until next time, see you later, partner.